Life has a harsh way of proving you wrong when you credit betrayal to come solely from adversaries and not from the ones you hold dear. Returning weary yet eager from a business trip, I immediately sensed an anomaly in my apartment. The air was saturated with the familiar vanilla aroma, my sister's undeniable fragrance. Puzzled, I ventured into my room and discovered my wedding dress missing from the closet. Just as disbelief began to settle in, my phone buzzed. It was my best friend, Christine. As soon as I answered, her voice was steady, yet carried a discordant caution. "Ellie, you need to sit down." Anxiety gripped me, hearing such a tone from Christine only when matters were grave. "What's happening?" I implored, my throat constricting. After a pause, came the revelation. "Amelia and Axel got married yesterday in your dress." Her words were like a visceral blow, and I clutched my phone tightly, my knuckles blanching. "What?" I whispered incredulously, my mind racing to grasp the situation. Christine expanded. "It's all over social media. I tried reaching you, but the flight delay. I thought you were aware." The air was knocked out of me. In my brief absence, my fiancé and my sister had walked down the aisle, claiming a life that belonged to me. Suddenly, it all clicked. Axel's recent aloofness, Amelia's growing curiosity in my wedding details, their mutual insistence on my attending this business trip, despite pressing timings. I had been blind. Choking back emotions, I told Christine, "I need to go." Amidst her protests, the call ended. With trembling hands, I opened Instagram, scanning through photo after photo of Amelia donning my dress, clinging to Axel, her smile oblivious to my shattered reality. The caption read, "When you just know it's right. Sorry sis, love won't wait." I let out a bitter laugh. Unbeknownst to them, a storm was brewing in their bliss. Another buzz, this time a message from Bruno, my mentor. "Deal sealed. You now have controlling interest in Harrington Enterprises. Announcement is next week. Congrats." A grin tugged at my lips, though cold. Harrington Enterprises, Axel's family empire, his struggle for revival over the past year, and now all mine. The doorbell's chime yanked me from contemplation. Leah, Amelia's close companion, stood there, remorse masking her face. "Ellie, I am sorry." I tried dissuading her. Her voice faltered. I stepped aside. "Tell me everything." Leah nervously perched on my couch, her guilt apparent. "She orchestrated it for weeks," she confessed. "Amelia deceived Axel, leading him to believe you were unfaithful, even crafting fraudulent messages with your associate. When doubts stirred, she convinced him it was fate, claiming you prioritized career over him." Anger simmered within, as the reality sank. My dress, my home key, all pawns in her game. "She swiped your spare key weeks back to ensure your absence," Leah murmured, nearly inaudible. Drawing a deep breath, I contained my turmoil. The past me would have erupted, demanding answers, but that version had been replaced. Now I possessed leverage, and I would wield it strategically. Leah mentioned their celebration was tonight at Bella's. "Duly noted," I responded, her concern evident. Leah queried, "You aren't planning anything rash, are you?" My smile didn't reach my eyes. "Oh, Leah," I said, rising. "I think you know me better. I never play just to participate, I play to win." I gazed at my phone, the social media circus under Amelia's post unfolding endlessly. Laughter escaped me, not from humor, but because my fiancé and sister, completely oblivious, had stumbled into a trap of their own making. They believed their betrayal would leave me in ruins, but they had underestimated my resolve. While they celebrated their perceived victory, my mind was already formulating the next steps. My phone vibrated with a message from Bruno. "The final paperwork is ready. One signature, and it's all finalized." Sitting at my desk, I opened my laptop. Just one click was enough to dismantle everything Axel had dedicated his life to protecting. The family business he had fought fiercely for was now in my hands. Inhaling deeply, I watched the confirmation email arrive. Ellie Monroe, majority shareholder of Harrington Enterprises. A satisfactory title, indeed. Almost as if on cue, my phone lit up with Axel's call. I let it ring multiple times before finally answering. Ellie, please, he began, his voice urgent. You misunderstand. It's not what you think. I chuckled, keeping my voice light. So, you didn't actually tie the knot with my sister in my wedding dress? Silence. Just as I suspected, I said, a smile tugging at my lips. I truly wish you both happiness. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more pressing matters at hand. Business waits for no one. Ellie, wait. I disconnected the call. Christine arrived soon after, worry written all over her face. You're too calm, she noted, concern evident. And not in a good way. I pushed a glass of wine toward her. What would you prefer I do? I asked. Cry? Throw things? She hesitated. Maybe just feel something. Oh, I feel plenty, I assured her. Focused. Ready. She examined me intently before sighing. You're terrifying when you're like this. I nodded, pleased. Bruno was the next to arrive, addressing the impending gala. The announcement of your takeover is scheduled for next week. All key figures will be present, including Axel's family. Invite them all, I directed. Make it unavoidable. Christine shook her head. This isn't merely business, Ellie. You want them to witness your triumph. I met her gaze firmly. And why shouldn't they? That evening, I strode into LeBlanc, the high-end restaurant where Axel and Amelia celebrated their so-called new beginning. The maitre d' glanced up. Miss Monroe, is your table ready? I nodded. Just for one. Heads turned as I entered, and Amelia blanched, Axel's jaw clenching visibly. Ellie, Amelia stammered, rising suddenly. Please continue, I interjected smoothly, accepting the menu. I simply crave the lamb. It's exquisite here, don't you agree, Axel? We always ordered it on anniversaries. Axel paled. Amelia's friends exchanged uneasy glances. Join us, one of Axel's business partners suggested, attempting to alleviate the tension. That's kind, but no, I smiled. I have work before next week's critical announcement. Axel's head snapped up. What announcement? I savored my wine. Oh, you'll discover soon enough. The gala invitation must have been delivered by now. It's bound to be unforgettable. Amelia abruptly collected herself, pulling me aside. Ellie, please. I know you're furious. Furious? I echoed, amused. No, Amelia, far from it. Desperation clouded her features. You misunderstand, she pleaded. I understand all too well, I replied, stepping closer. You deceived, stole, and betrayed. All for a man who never belonged to you. She withered. We didn't intend to hurt you. A soft laugh escaped me. Oh dear, you didn't. You schemed for months, wearing my dress, intending to set this all in motion. But here's the catch. Betrayal isn't without its repercussions. Suddenly, a sharp knock broke the tension between us. It was Axel's voice outside the door, asking if everything was all right. I calmly unlocked the door and met his eyes. Oh, everything's fine, I assured him smoothly, mentioning we were merely having a sisterly chat. His gaze slipped between us, unease clear in his eyes. By the way, Axel, I interjected, tilting my head slightly. How's the company doing? I've heard some intriguing insights about last quarter's financials. His face darkened ominously. How do you? He began, but I brushed past him, patting his cheek. You really should be more attentive, darling. Returning to my table, a buzz from my phone caught my attention, a text from an unknown number. We need to discuss Axel Harrington. Meet me tomorrow at 10 a.m. at Capital Coffee. Ask for Cameron. I stared at it briefly before another message arrived. I have critical info you need to know before the gala. Across the room, Amelia and Axel sat in strained silence, their celebration ruined. The waiter arrived offering more champagne. No, I refused, but send a bottle to my sister's table, please. I raised my glass toward them. They thought they'd triumphed, clueless that I was just beginning. I arrived at Capital Coffee 10 minutes early, my eyes scanning until I spotted him, a man relaxed in a dark suit, yet his gaze was sharp. He waved me over. You must be Ellie Monroe, he said as I Saturday, and you must be Cameron. I replied. He slid a folder toward me. I'm the external auditor for Harrington Enterprises. You'll want to see this. As I flipped through, my stomach dropped. Bank statements, wire transfers, money funneled out, millions. Axel's been embezzling, Cameron explained, but it gets more interesting. The funds aren't in his name. They're in accounts under your sister's name. Amelia? I couldn't hide my shock. She nodded. I doubt she's aware. Those accounts were set up months ago with Axel's transactions. Seeing this, a classic setup. He'd blame her if caught. Closing the folder, I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. It was fraud, with Axel ready to sacrifice Amelia to cover his tracks. Does the board know? I asked. Not yet, Cameron said. I was finalizing my report when I heard of your involvement. Thought you'd want to address it before I go public. My phone buzzed again. It was Leah. I hesitated, but answered. Ellie, Amelia's panicking. She got bank statements she doesn't recognize. Axel dismissed it as a banking blunder, but she's spooked. I exhaled, advising, tell her to secure those papers and not to sign anything from Axel. I'll explain soon. Turning back to Cameron, determination lining my voice. We need to act quick. The board meets this afternoon. Axel must be surprised. Cameron smirked. I like your style. Returning home, Christine and Bruno awaited me. How bad is it? Christine asked. I tossed the folder on the table. Worse than we thought. Axel's not only a liar. He's a criminal. Bruno skimmed through. Face unreadable. If the board sees this, he's done. I nodded. Then let's ensure they do. Bruno, make sure I have complete support for the takeover. Christine, arms crossed, queried about Amelia. I hesitated. She's also a victim, but that doesn't mean I forgive her yet. Christine sighed. Just ensure revenge isn't your sole drive. It's not just revenge. I responded resolutely. This is about business. Arriving early at the emergency board meeting set for 3 p.m., I watched as the members filed in, ready for what was to unfold. Key investors, senior executives, and Axel's own father were present. Then, at exactly 3:05, Axel entered, eyes landing on me, confusion flickering before shifting to suspicion. What the hell is this? He demanded. Bruno stood up, saying, We're here to discuss recent financial issues within Harrington Enterprises. Axel adjusted his suit, scoffing. Financial concerns? Oh, please. Cameron entered, setting up his laptop. Shall we begin? Axel turned pale, recognizing Cameron immediately as the financial statements appeared on the screen. Silence enveloped the room. Over the past year, Cameron began, millions have been siphoned into private accounts under Amelia Monroe's name, but upon investigation, every transaction traces back to Axel Harrington's authorization. Shocked gasps filled the space. Suddenly, Axel stood. This is ridiculous. My fiancée wouldn't. You mean your wife? I interjected smoothly. The one you married in my dress. He clenched his fists. This is a setup. Cameron switched slides, showing emails and approvals, clearly tied to Axel's digital footprint. This is undeniable fraud evidence, Cameron stated. Axel's father rose. Is this true? Axel stammered, his composure unraveling. I was consolidating funds temporarily. Murmurs spread among the board as the shift became apparent. I leaned in. So, Axel, if it was consolidation, why do all transactions lead back to you? Axel paled, speechless. I addressed the board. Harrington Enterprises is in crisis. Only new leadership can ensure a future. Pausing for impact, I proposed Axel's immediate resignation. Axel's father nodded. I second that motion. Unanimously, hands were raised. Well, I said, reclining. That settles it. Security intervened as Axel lunged, restrained before reaching me. You think you've won, he spat. Standing, meeting his glare, I smiled slowly. Oh, Axel, I didn't just win, I ended you. After his removal, outside the meeting, Amelia awaited, arms wrapped around herself, looking lost, broken. You knew, she whispered. You knew all along. I found out yesterday, I admitted. Tears welled in her eyes. He never loved me, did he? I sighed. He loved what you could do for him. That's not the same. She swallowed hard. I don't expect your forgiveness, but I don't know what to do. Handing her Christine's card, I said, she's the best fraud lawyer. Call her, fix this. Amelia glanced at the card, then at me. And us, she asked. I hesitated. We're not there yet. She nodded, wiping tears. I understand. Walking away, my phone buzzed. Cameron texted, now that the board's sorted, let's discuss the gala. I suspect Axel's planning more mischief. I smirked. I'm counting on it. On my first day in the boardroom as CEO, I anticipated whispers, glares, resistance. Instead, I found respect. The board members, who ousted Axel days ago, sat silently attentive as I took the head seat. Bruno distributed briefing documents, Cameron finalized the transition plan, and I spent the last 24 hours prepping. This was no longer about revenge, it was about rebuilding. Let's begin, I declared confidently. A tight meeting followed, with departments reporting, plans formulating to address the chaos Axel left. Repairing the damage wouldn't be easy, but I wasn't here for easy. I was here to succeed. Later, Christine awaited in my office, her expression unreadable. You need to see this, she said, placing a file on my desk. As I opened it, bank records and testimonies revealed themselves. More victims, Christine stated. At least 203 confirmed. I leaned back, the weight of it hitting me hard. This man wasn't merely a liar, a cheater, or a fraud. He was a predator. Our conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Cameron entered, nodding to Christine before turning his attention to me. You've got someone to meet. Leading me down the corridor to a conference room, he introduced a woman sitting inside with her hands tightly clasped on her lap. This is Sarah, Cameron explained, my sister. Her gaze was sharp yet weary. She was among Axel's initial victims. I pulled up a chair across from her and asked, tell me everything. She did, recounting the same tale but with different specifics. Axel had manipulated her into believing they were in love and convinced her to co-sign on business loans, leaving her in financial ruin when everything fell apart. I thought I was the only one, she confessed, her voice hollow. I glanced at Christine's file. You weren't. She swallowed hard. So what now? Without hesitation, I replied, we fix this. All of it. That afternoon, Amelia appeared at my office. I invited her in, watching her nervously fiddle with her sleeve's hem. I met with the fraud lawyers, she said quietly. They believe I can clear my name if I cooperate. I nodded approvingly. Good. She paused. I don't know how to make this right, Ellie. You can't, I replied simply. But you can try. I slid a folder toward her. She frowned as she opened it. What's this? A job offer, I answered, director of the Victims Advocacy Department. Her head jerked up in surprise. You want me to lead it? I leaned forward. You've experienced both sides of this. You fell for Axel's deceit, but now you know better. Help the others. Tears welled up in her eyes. Why would you do this for me? I met her gaze. Because I'm done letting Axel wreck people's lives, including yours. She swallowed hard and nodded. I won't mess this up, she promised. Don't, I warned. That evening, I found myself on the rooftop of Harrington Enterprises, gazing over the city lights. Mind some company? I turned to see Cameron standing there, hands tucked in his pockets. I nodded, and he settled beside me, the silence between us comforting. You did the right thing, he finally said. Which part? I asked. He chuckled. All of it. We sat quietly for a moment before he added, You know, I don't think Axel ever realized just how much he underestimated you. I smirked. Men like him never do. He turned to fully face me. So, what happens now? I exhaled deeply. We move forward. We make things right. And you, he asked softly. I really looked at him and replied, I think I finally get to start over. He reached for my hand, his fingers brushing mine. I let them linger there, feeling a semblance of peace for the first time in weeks. The courtroom fell silent as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict. Axel sat at the defense table, clad in an orange jumpsuit, appearing smaller than I'd ever seen him. The defendant has shown a repeated pattern of fraud and manipulation, the judge stated. The impact of his actions has been extensive. Sitting behind me were Amelia, with Christine and Cameron on either side. Taking into account the severity of these offenses, the judge continued, "This court sentences the defendant to 15 years in federal prison." A hush enveloped the room. Amelia beside me let out a trembling breath as Axel shot me a final glare while being led away. I met his stare unfaltering. Outside, the press swarmed, reporters clamoring with questions. "Miss Monroe, how does it feel to see justice served?" I halted, turning toward the cameras. "This was never just about justice," I responded. "It was about protecting people, about ensuring no one else would ever suffer because of him again." And with that, I walked away from the courthouse and the chaos. I didn't just win a company. I gained something far more vital: control over my own destiny.